Okay, let us go ahead and get ourselves started today. We got a lot of fun things we want to do today to help you finish up assignment 4, as well as get you all the necessary information you'll need for the next assignment. So we have a lot of things we want to get accomplished. The overall order of what we're going to try to accomplish today is I want to start by just answering some questions about what the intention is with assignment 4, just help people understand what sort of things to turn in, and just trying to answer any general questions people have about what's expected on that one. Then we were going to move ahead and continue with the notion of systems modeling and keep on going with HVAC systems. But we're especially going to stop and kind of take a look at the whole issue of how we link models together, because very often with these building systems models, we don't put them all together into a single project file. We put them into several project files and link them together. And there's some reasons for doing that. And then how we actually copy some things like grids and levels between those different files is to keep everything in coordination. Okay? So we have all everything using the same coordinate system and hopefully staying coordinated in space. We're also going to take a look explicitly at the issue of model coordination. Given the fact that you have people working on different systems, you have some people working on the architectural models, some people working on the structural models, some people working on a plumbing model or an HVAC model, how we get all that stuff back together again, and ultimately do some sort of clash detection to make sure that we aren't having interferences, we aren't having overlaps spatially, and what we do when we do find those things to go through and resolve that stuff. So this is all taking us down the path of really where we're going to be going with assignment 5, where we're going to have you take one of your models from assignment 4 and working in a small team actually go through and complete the structure, do some systems modeling, and pull it all together and do some coordination. Okay, so that's what's coming. And that we have a draft out now being reviewed by the TAs. Hopefully we'll have that out to you tomorrow in terms of getting it distributed. But let's stop and pause at assignment 4 for just a minute and kind of review what's happening there. And really what would hopefully we'd want you to go ahead and turn in for assignment 4. So assignment 4, a lot of people have had some confusion about really where to stop. Because there was this whole notion of really that we wanted to encompass a certain amount of space, 500,000 square feet, and along the lines of doing that, we might come up with different shapes for doing that. So that's where the whole A versus B came from. And people have approached it different ways. Some people have done it as 2 separate models, that's okay. Some people have done it as design options within a single model. That was really my intention, was that you do it as design options, so you'd have a single design option set, and there'd be option 1 and option 2 underneath that set that you could sort of toggle between. But if you set it up some other way, that's okay too. Doesn't really matter. Ultimately, the big point of having A versus B was really just to explore at a high level how you could use 2 different paths to get to 500,000 square feet and then make some sort of decision about which is the better path. Okay, so start with this A versus B, okay? And at that level, really what you want to have is you want to have just the mass and divide it up into mass floors, okay? Because we'll need that to do the conceptual energy analysis. But you don't really need to kind of consider both the models beyond that. It's really just those 2 models are really just up through the mass floors, so we have some basis for comparing them. Okay. Then we go down to conceptual energy analysis land. And people have mixed luck with the energy analysis. Some people, it works just immediately, right away on their machines. Other ones, it doesn't, and it fights you every step of the way. Let's talk about what we're really trying to do. We really, at a high level, are just trying to figure out A versus B. Which one looks the most promising in terms of pursuing and taking forward into a building? So, if along the way of doing the energy modeling system is fighting you, different things that may be happening. If you don't have an account to get into the energy analysis service, okay, you need an account just by having an Autodesk ID, the same ID that you use to download software. That should be able to let you log in and get into the system. So let's just kind of look at that. I'll kind of take it one step at a time. Opening up Revit to get ourselves started. That's okay. I'll leave that at that for right now. We'll worry about what that means later. Something's starting. Okay, great. I'm going to do a new architectural model. And again, for massing inside, let me just go create some sort of in-place mass. I'll keep it really simple as we get started. Oh, I'll just make a little L-shaped thing. Super. We got that hanging around here. Let me rotate it into 3D. I'll choose that guy and make a form out of it. Zoom on out. I will say finish that mass and make some mass floors. So then I really just do this for A and B, so we have some things to work with side by side. Maybe I'll put another floor level in there. Looks like that's tall enough to do that. So I'll put a grid in there, or a level, excuse me. Maybe make that another 10 feet up. Okay, but at a high level, we just want A versus B that looks something like this. Oops. Choose this. Make the mass floors. Okay, and at a high level, in terms of what I'd love to see on a sheet, I would love to have a sheet that has just, A versus B side by side. So I'd love to have a picture of the 3D model for design option 1 versus design option 2, just so I get a real high level sense of what you were considering, and then maybe even the schedules underneath there. Now let's talk about this. In terms of design options, like in making the right things appear on the sheet, the key to making that happen, if you've done it really with design options, is there's this notion of, will you automatically always just show on the sheet view the primary option, the one that's considered the leading candidate, or will you lock it into one specific design option? And that's where some people are struggling to kind of get things onto sheets, because they go through and they set up their design options down here. So I'll say there's a new option set in here. I'll give it a name like building shapes. And under there, I'll make one that's going to be called tall. I'll make another one in there that's going to be called flat, whatever it is. Rename that. So what happens here is, if I even take that one now, I'm going to just grab the whole thing. I'm going to cut it, Control X. I'm going to put it inside the tall, just by pasting it in here. And I could do that a number of different ways, but pasting certainly works. Okay, that looks like tall. That looks like flat. There's nothing in flat right now. I can go ahead and make a flat one in there too. Okay, but the idea is that we want to go through and have a couple different options. I think you're catching my cold. This is going to be my flat one. I'll finish that up. Put some mass floors in there. I got tall, I got flat. One of the questions people have is really, how do I get those both on the sheets? And here's the rub. I got tall versus flat, that's all kind of cool. When it comes time to put them on the sheets, this is what gets a little bit confusing. I say, great, I'm going to go through and make a new sheet. Where'd it go? Where's my new sheets? Right there. That's plan views. It's right there.
It works only if it's set to the main model.
Well, thank you. I think I read that in Piazza.
Yeah. Oops, it came up here now.
Okay, so we'll do one sheet that's going to do a comparison. I got this nice 3D view. I want to get them both in there. So how do I do that? I need to actually duplicate this view. I'm going to call this my tall 3D. I'm going to duplicate that view. I'm going to call this my flat 3D. So I got my tall and my flat. Tall's looking pretty good. It's over here. Flat's looking over here. Oh, I don't want that one. I want the flat one, so I'll make it that one there. Okay, everything looks good, you think, until you go over to that sheet. And you say, great, I'm going to draw tall onto there. Drag it right in there. There's tall. Tall kind of looks like the flat. Wait, no, that's not good. Well, let me put flat in there. Now that looks like flat, but I made them different. Wait, no, over here. Also, whoa, now they're both tall. Now it's main model, which seems to be tall. Okay, so you're really confused at this point about what's going on here. And here's what you got to do. By default, the views are always just linked to whatever is the automatic choice, which is the primary choice. So if I actually want to get tall versus flat on the same sheet next to each other, the key is as follows. I got to go over to tall, say, hey tall, visibility graphics, let's lock you into, not automatic, let's just lock you into the tall choice. Okay, and flat over here, okay, flat, what do we got to do to you? Again, go visibility graphics and choose an explicit design option. Make it flat. Say OK, and now when you go back there, you'll have tall versus flat. Okay, so watch out for that. That's the key to kind of getting two different options side by side. It's all in the visibility graphics and just locking a view to that. Now, that very same technique that works for making the 3D views, okay, it actually works for the mass floor schedule too, if you want to have those side by side. Because the mass floor schedule is just another view of the model. It's really no different. So, if I'm going to go through and create some sort of schedule, and I'll make some schedule of mass floors so I can put them all in here. Mass floors. And I'll put the level in there. I always like level and the floor area and the usage and all these things. Okay, that schedule's looking pretty good right there. I need to put a subtotal on it and some stuff like that, but let that ride for right now. You go ahead and put those on there. This actually has a design option associated with it too. You may wonder where it is. How can you tell which design option it is? But you can. If you go to it has a visibility and graphics too, you'll see it's currently just the automatic choice, so whichever the primary choice is. So how do you go through and actually have a mass schedule for tall versus flat? Same way we did for the 3D view. Just go ahead, grab that schedule, and duplicate it. I'll make one over here, mass floor schedule, kind of tall and one flat. And I'll duplicate that. Make this one, mass floor schedule flat. Now what do I do? So far I haven't actually changed the critical dimension. I have to choose the visibility graphics. Now watch out for this. This is actually kind of confusing. I got stuck on this earlier today. I go on over to the View tab and I want to find visibility graphics, and it's grayed out and I can't seem to be able to get it ungray. So that's frustrating. Even VG didn't work. Those are my favorite shortcuts. It is over here in the Properties tab though, so go ahead into the Properties palette and change it right there. You can say visibility graphics there, and again, map it to a design option. This is going to be mapped to tall, so it'll show one set of values, whereas this one over here on flat, I'll map it to the other one. So just same general principle. Whenever you want to show two different things, yeah, just go ahead and use visibility graphics to kind of switch between those two different options. And then you can put those schedules on your sheets too. So one schedule I love is this whole notion of, let's just put, tall and the schedule right here showing the mass floors in there. And then I'll put flat and the schedule of mass floors in here. And that's kind of a real good way just side by side to sort of see those two different options and get a high level overview of what I'm about. So that's what I kind of envisioned for one of your sheets. Now, after you choose these, the idea is we want to go through and kind of do some sort of energy analysis. Let me go to, like tall, for example. Turn on that energy analysis. You'll notice that even I am not signed in right now. So when I try to send this off, it's going to fail right now. I'm not signed in, so I need to sign on in. go ahead and whatever that ID is that you use to download the software. I have many, and you can have as many as you need too. So if it's not working for you for one ID, one thing that's not a bad thing to try is actually create a second ID and see if it'll work for you that way. Okay, I'm signed in now, so my name's up here at the top. Once it is there, I should be able to go to Analyze. Say I want to use the conceptual energy analysis. Now, someone asked about this, someone who already went through and put in all the building walls and really had done all that. They wanted to go back and do the energy analysis after they'd already kind of converted into walls. That's okay too. If you choose this mode down here, it'll use the walls that you put in. If you choose that mode over there, it'll do the conceptual energy analysis. It'll just use the form. So I'm going to choose the conceptual form. Even if you have the walls there, that's okay. It'll ignore them. It'll just use the conceptual ones. So you enable that. Something like this will happen, and I can run the model. Now, running the energy simulation, hopefully that'll run off and kind of do good things for us. Some people have had some troubles, so let me kind of just show you variations on a theme. If it turns out that this is giving you troubles, there's this notion of a core in here. There's also a notion right now of dividing the perimeter. So there's a southwest corner, a northwest corner, or north, south, east, west side. If your geometry is really unusual, you may have trouble making sense of it. So different things you might try. If you try running the analysis and the analysis fails, different things you could try to simplify the model right up front are just on the energy settings. You might say, hey, this whole thing about the core offset, let me just turn that to 0. Okay. Then we could also go through and turn off this whole issue of, dividing the perimeter zones. And what am I trying to do? I'm really just trying to simplify the problem a little bit. If it's a little confused, you can't complete the energy analysis, it's all about just kind of backing off and seeing if we can sort of get something simple to run. Did it run? All right, so 98. 98. Forever 98. Okay, well, we'll get that figured out. Okay, so simplifying may help a little bit. If it's failing somewhere, don't be afraid to simplify, because really, at a high level, what we're going after with the energy analysis, it isn't that we're trying to predict accurately over 30 years that the actual energy use intensity will be a specific number and this is how much money we're going to spend. It's really, we're just trying to figure out, is A or B comparatively better? So, it's okay if the real building I have in mind has a slopey this and a cutout carved over there and some sort of swoopy-doopy thing that's really just kind of creating a little bit too much complexity. Don't be afraid to back off and just sort of start with even sort of like a simple box. See if you can get a simple box to run. Just a box that's the approximate volumetric shape of really what you have in mind. That may be enough to help us figure out A versus B. Finer and finer detail may give us better and better answers, but if we cross that threshold where it just won't run anymore, back up. Okay, because really at the end, I just want to figure out A versus B. And even, it's getting to be like 11 o'clock tonight, it still won't run, and you're really worried about this thing. If you just can't get it to run, ditch the energy analysis and just kind of keep on going. We tried our best to get it to run, but if it's really just the system and software service is going to keep on fighting you, don't beat your head on it. Just sort of based on what you would guess, figure out A versus B, which is the one you want to run forward with, and run with it. Okay. Don't necessarily get yourself stuck on that. So Raj, in his infinite wisdom in the Piazza, said that basically if you're really stuck on energy analysis, just, and it's just not going to run, choose one and go. Okay, and that's fine. We just need to sort of be pragmatic about it because every once in a while, it's just software. It won't always work. Okay, I'm going to run some simulation. Hopefully it'll work. Hopefully for my simple model here, it will not get stuck at 98 forever. But always, give yourself the flexibility. Try something simple first, because by the time you put the 3 ellipses and the swoopy cutout and all that type of stuff, it may just get too complicated for it. Okay, and that's okay. We just need to kind of use a higher power tool at that point. So we want to get through this. We want to do the energy analysis. Hopefully out of the energy analysis, we are going to get some sort of results. Oh, I'm going to go through and grab a couple buildings here that I've already run, choose those two, say that I want to compare them. Oops, that one's still running right now. I'll do these two. I'll say compare. I got some sort of side-by-side thing going on here. That's looking fine. I am ready to do some sort of a print. Or can I do it through the export? I can, through the export PDF. Save that away. That's your second deliverable. Go ahead and give yourself that export PDF. Okay. Finally, you're going to choose one, not two, but only one of those two things. Go ahead and make it into walls, doors, curtain systems, all those sort of things. Okay. I actually got past. But I'm going to choose that thing. I'm going to say, great, that looks fine. That's fantastic. Let me go back into my view. Oh, I'll start changing that into massing inside. I'll put some walls in here. So I'm going to put some bricky walls in there. We did this together in class. So I'm not going to belabor all this. I'll put some bricky walls on a piece of it. I have two walls right there because I double-clicked too fast. I'm going to go through and put some curtain systems in there. Okay. I am ready. Oh, I should put a floor and a roof in there too. Roof on the top. I think I got it. Let's see. Massing inside. Let's put the floor in there. Kind of hard to see what's going on. Let me switch that over just so I can just show that instead. There we go. Floor. Put the roof on the top. Okay. We got something we are ready to render. Almost ready to render in terms of what's going on. In terms of when you get ready to render, again, don't worry now. We're just trying to get the overall form of the building. So, as we get ready to try and produce that rendering, I got this thing that's looking pretty good here. I tend to like these nice views. Oh, I call them the ground level perspectives. Put that camera in there. Come on in. Okay, it's looking pretty good in terms of what's going on. I am ready now to do some rendering. I can render it right here within the program. Since it's just an exterior rendering, it will render very quickly. But watch out for this. Two things I'll sort of comment on with rendering. One is watch out when you do the rendering. I'll give you three things actually. Hey, my big old curtain wall kind of looks like a big old blue box over there. What's going on? What's going on right now is the mass is still hanging around. We still actually have the mass visible. Let me turn on the shading. You'll see it's there. It's kind of bluish. Okay. What I need to do in this view is actually just go through and just turn off this mass show forms. Yeah. It'll then go back to just showing the true building elements. So that big blue box, which is the mass, will no longer be there. Okay, let me render that again. So watch out as you render. If the mass is on, it'll sort of mess things up. You won't be able to see what you want. Second time's the charm. Except for the fact that my big old glass box here looks like a big old glass box, and the deal is curtain systems by default don't have mullions, they just have glass. So to fix that, okay, not easily dissuaded, I'll say no worries. I know where to find mullions. Actually, it's weird, you can't put them in a perspective view though. I'll warn you about that. You have to go back to kind of the other 3D view. Okay, so in this 3D view, let me even turn off the masses here, visibility graphics, turn off the mass so it looks a little bit better. Okay, some people were asking about, well, I can't see the holes in the shaft, something like that. And the problem is that if the mass is there, you're not seeing them. Let me go through and put some mullions in here. I can put them on all grid lines. That's the quickie way of just mullions for everyone. Okay, looking pretty good. Now, in my exterior rendering, as I'm kind of working all this over the building, It's kind of a little naked right now because there's nothing that's giving you a sense of scale, any sort of sense of form. You may want to go ahead and just add a few things to it. Again, there's no big expectation. If you're going to go ahead and render that, that's okay. That'll get you through what you need to do. But if you want to go just a little bit further, kind of make it nice really quickly, grab some of those trees. Take some of those trees and throw them in. Trees are nice because they give everything a sense of scale. Just big old glass boxes without any sense of scale are, they're kind of disturbing. The other thing you can do is, remember those people, those gratuitous people I threw in there last time? Old Laurent and Yin Yin and all some of my favorites. You can load some of them in. And they're under Entourage. Okay, so I'm going to put old Dwayne in front of the building. Dwayne needs someone to talk to who's probably not a clone of him. I'm going to go ahead and put Alex in there. I don't remember what Alex looks like right offhand. So I got them in here. They're both facing frontward right now. That little nose, that little point is indicating what they're facing right now. Let me just rotate that. And I'll rotate Alex so he's facing Dwayne. Okay, looks like we're having a conversation. There they are. Let's try rendering these guys. Okay. And allowing for the fact that my building doesn't have a back, but yours will. I got something that's not looking too bad. Okay, I like this sort of notion that it has just a little bit of scale to it. The trees actually cast shadows. It's kind of hard to see from this perspective, but it's a little bit more of a sense of really what the building is going to look like. I could put a ground plane under there, put some floor in there. What I would typically do if I want to get this rendering onto a sheet is I would save it to the project. That'll just save the JPEG image. Okay, exterior. Show the model again. So now, on another sheet, I might say, hey, let's go through and create a new sheet. And on this sheet, I'm going to go through and maybe put that 3D view, since I kind of like it. Maybe I'll even put the rendering in there too. So I can sort of see those two things side by side. So that's kind of what I have in mind for the rendering. Not really a whole lot more than that. It's just a little something to show. Yes?
How can you make the rendering group?
Oh, very good question, you say. Let's go ahead and I'll grab the rendering and I have to activate it. Okay, that makes it changeable. Now it actually has little handles. So I can do more of the wallpaper thing and kind of blow it up a little bit bigger. Okay, let me deactivate it. Let's talk about this other view. This view is kind of a little interesting in terms of how you make it bigger. Oh, it's a perspective view. I take that back. No, it's not going to be all that different. Perspective view, if I activate it, it also has the ability to stretch it. Although, let me see what I ought to do here. I always have to think about this. That's just the cropping. It's a perspective view. Size crop. I have the notion right here. It's kind of an interesting one. If I want to change it, do I want to change the field of view or do I want to scale it to make it be that way? So right now it's 6:3. If I say instead I want that to be 9 inches by whatever it's going to be, let me say scale locked proportions. It'll scale it right. Yeah, that'll scale it for us there too. So every view has its own sort of different way of rescaling it, but you can make those a little bit bigger. Okay. Finally, I might want to have a floor plan view, but honestly, you don't need every floor plan view. What would be really useful is maybe it's your first floor, maybe it's your second floor. Go ahead and include a floor plan view that just shows, where the stairway and the shaft is going to be, where you put the structural columns. Okay. That's it. You just need one of those. You don't need like all 16 of them or whatever it is to do it. Okay. You know, very light on annotations. This was really more about just going through the analysis and kind of getting some of the views on there, because ultimately you're going to give us the Revit model. So, you know, with that we can go ahead and dig into whatever we want to in terms of going a little bit further. So this assignment's less about the documentation and more about just kind of getting the design idea out there. Okay. So to kind of make sense, A versus B, choose A or B, then for A or B, I like B. B was much, much better than A. Go through and put a skin on it, render it, and figure out where you think the shaft and the columns will go in that one. Okay, done. Okay, make sense? Beauty. Okay. Let's put that one away, and we will shift our attention then back to systems. Oh, there's always one more. Go on.
So when you're using the mass forms, make the wall goes from the first floor to
Yes.
all the way. If you have 20 floors, you go to the 74.
Yes.
So I tried using the constraints from level 1 to level 2, for example. Really simple. So let's say you want to change the type of wall between levels. But the simplest way would be just creating different forms.
Good question. Okay, I think one way would be different forms, because you're just really trying to introduce a break in the form. You want it to have some sort of line. So I could have form on top of form, and then at that break, when you cast the wall, each of the different sections can be cast to different material.
Yeah.
I think
Because it brings into the constraints. You specify the wall going from one level to
Yeah, because
another.
that's interesting. Is it a vertical wall?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm sort of curious about that. Let's just kind of try that out. So if I go to, oh, which one is it? Over there somewhere. So the interesting question is, okay, these walls have been, I'll call it cast based on the form. So here it is. See if you say up to level 2. Now, for a perfectly straight one, does your wall have, is it a slightly slanted wall, or like a, does it have any sort of curvature? Or any,
No, it's
is it vertical wall?
square and
I don't know, we got to figure out what it is. Because, what's that?
is it supposed to listen to the constraints?
If it's a perfectly vertical wall, it should listen to the constraints. Okay, let's see if I can sort of even break that for you and make that work. Let's take this whole thing again, we'll put the form back in. Actually, I can just do it the other way. You got me sort of wondering now. I'll say, let's go ahead and turn on that. The mass is back in there somewhere. See if I can find it. Tab, tab. Got everything but my mass. So I can grab it over here. It just doesn't want to do it. Okay, let's see what's happening over here. It says mass is on. Yeah, should be there. Oh, it's because it's in a design option, it won't let me change it. Hate that. Okay, edit in place. Let's see if I can grab this again. I'm just going to cat that out a little bit. Okay, then going back over here. Okay, I should be able to take this wall. It's interesting. It doesn't put the, this is interesting. When I create the wall, it's sensitive to which design option it puts it in. This is probably something that's giving some people trouble. Oh, it's interesting. It didn't want to change it halfway through. I'm going to have to recast it this way. But let's do it that way. So the question is, for the sloping wall, will it adapt to the constraints? And my suspicion is that it won't.
Even the straight wall. Or I don't know.
Like the straight wall over here, I think that's going to adapt. Okay. But my suspicion is that this wall over here, see, it doesn't even sort of give me that choice because it's not sensible as far as it's concerned. We should take a look at your specific case. What's going on?
So it's supposed to change.
It should be if it's a vertical wall. Yeah. Okay, so lots of variations.